Hey everybody, Vince Gilligan here, and I directed this episode. This is episode 508 of season 5 of Better Call Saul, and it's entitled Bagman, and it was written by Gordon Smith. And I'm here to talk about the special effects and the makeup and a little bit about the cinematography, a little bit about all the ingredients that went into doing this shootout scene that took us, I believe, 5 straight days to shoot. And as the great Peter Gould says, it takes a village. I think he stole that from Hillary Clinton, but whatever. But it really did take a village to make this scene, and it particularly took a village. I mean, you want it to be great, and all of that, but your first order of business with this many blank rounds being fired and shooting way out 2 hours away from Albuquerque and being out in the middle of nowhere in 100-degree heat, first and foremost you got to do it safely, and it took a village to do this scene safely. And so let's get to talking about it a little bit. So the action in this sequence starts with the character of Matador, played by Kenneth Trujillo, getting ready to make an end of Jimmy McGill. Jimmy's going away here until the shot rings out of nowhere. So the first special effect we have, physical special effect, is a very simple one. Blood spatters on Bob Odenkirk's shirt. But when I say a very simple one, I'm putting finger quotes that you can't see around that, because there's nothing simple about these kind of physical effects. This little spatter of blood, I can't tell you how many hours of work on the part of Werner Hahnlein and Bob House and Leo Lovato, Justi Gonzalez, our amazing special effects crew. These guys, days, maybe weeks in advance of us shooting this scene, how do we get blood on this guy, and what's the right amount of blood, and how fast should it hit his breast pocket there, and how much is the right amount, how much is too much. And they would shoot videos and show them to me and to the other producers and to Gordon Smith, the writer, and we'd look at them over and over again, and we'd say, okay, this amount, or maybe somewhere between version A and version B, whatever. And then when you get out there in the day and it's like 114 degrees, and you watch for real, and you've only got a finite number of shirts, you say, okay, action, and boom, all of a sudden there's way too much blood, or maybe there's not enough blood, and you're thinking, oh my God, we're going to run out of shirts on this thing. Long-winded way of saying nothing is simple with these kind of effects, but the guys pulled it off great. This was probably only take 1 or take 2 here. It might have been take 1. And this is why prior planning prevents poor performance, as they used to say in the Boy Scouts, or wherever I learned that. And then what happens after that is he's wondering, Jimmy McGill's wondering, why am I still alive? And then the golden gun drops to the ground, and then there's a spatter of blood. This is, again, another physical effect. A little spatter of blood hitting the ground in front of Matador's feet. And again, this kind of stuff, you think it's be the simplest thing in the world, but how much is the right amount? How much is too much, and not enough? And what should the pulse rate, so to speak, be? How often should it squirt out? And it's just amazing how much conversations go into these kind of shots. But then after that, we've got the close-up on Matador's face as the blood is coming out. And this one was an all-hands-on-deck kind of deal. This one involved amazing makeup done by the brilliant Cheri Montesanto, who I've been working with since way back in the X-File days. Out here it's wicked hot, and she's got to figure out some kind of appliance to put over Kenneth's neck that's going to stick in the heat with all the sweat and the grease and the dirt and all of that. So there was a little bit of visual effects to help feather it in that normally would not have been necessary with the amazing work Cheri does. But then there's like a little tube hidden underneath this prosthetic, and then off camera the effects guys, Bob and Leo and Justi, are working away making blood squirt out. And again, then the question is, how fast should it come out, and how much should come out? And it's amazing what a time suck shots like this can be. So then after that, we have the character of Merc 1, as he's known in Gordon Smith's wonderful script, played by Conrad Padilla, who is a badass in real life. All these guys are. These guys are like amazing stuntmen. I think Conrad's a grappler, like a jiu-jitsu, like a Brazilian jiu-jitsu guy in real life. But like the nicest guy ever, although I would not want to cross him. But he gets shot through the eyeball here. And this is ultimately a visual effect done by Rodeo VFX up in Canada. And Rodeo's run by Khanikian. Diane Mercer found him and hired him for El Camino. And thank you, Diane, for finding Ara and his crew, because these guys are the best. So if you frame by frame this thing, you see, I mean, it's pretty gruesome. But again, a little goes a long way with shots like this. His eyeball disappears, and the bullet goes right through his right eye, and there's a little puff of blood that comes out from behind his head. All of this stuff is done frame by frame by these magicians, by Ara and his amazing visual effects artists up in Canada. And again, it's like, you know, when you have my job, and I'm the luckiest guy in the world with having the job where I don't have to understand how any of this works. All I have to do is like Nero, you know, thumbs up, thumbs down, not enough blood, too much blood. But all this stuff gets put in frame by frame. In this shot, we would have probably had more blood coming out from behind from the exit wound, except it is a story point for anybody listening to this. You've already seen episode 9, the episode after this, and you realize that the character of Lalo finds Jimmy's car in the desert, and it was a big, important thing that we all discussed at length before we shot this. There can't be any blood anywhere on this car, on Jimmy's esteem. If there is, then the story that Jimmy and Kim tell to Lalo will not hold up if there's any blood, if there's any sign of violence. So I would have liked to have had a blood, you know, not to be too gruesome, but a little blood spatter on this yellow car door would have helped. But we had to keep the blood off the door, so to speak. So then what you do have, once Conrad falls out of frame, clears frame, is a bullet hole in the door. That's real. And this is the oldest trick in the book. The bullet hole is just a real hole drilled in the door by Werner and his crew. And it's there the whole time from the get-go. And Conrad, when he falls out of frame, clears frame and reveals it. It's a fun, very simple magic trick. But sometimes the simplest ways of doing things are the best. And one last thought about this eyeball is, you know, how do these visual effects artists working in some darkened computer room up in Canada, how do they know how to animate something like this? Well, the way they do it is the very talented Cheri Montesanto did a real prosthetic eyeball, like a shot-away eye that she attached, I guess, with spirit gum or whatever they use now, onto Conrad's closed right eye. And that, we took a lot of photographs of that on the set, and that is what, although you don't actually see the physical appliance that she created in the finished shot, that was integral in helping Ara's animators know how to animate this thing. And then they had to put on motion blur and all that kind of stuff. It's like, I don't understand half of the stuff the way they do it, but it's astounding. So then the guys start firing away, boom, 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 and here, when Jimmy plops down underneath you see him underneath the esteem, and you see Conrad's twitching feet in the foreground. I love this kind of stuff. This is my favorite kind of, you know, magic trickery, is the simplest stuff. The blood at Conrad's feet is just a piece of plastic. It was like a piece of soft vinyl that looks like liquid blood. You guys probably, everybody remembers listening to this thing when you were kids. You'd go to the novelty store or whatever. I don't think they exist anymore, but you'd get the fake vomit or whatever, and it was just a piece of rubbery plastic. That's all this is, because we tested the real fake blood in the dirt, and it sunk into the dirt instantly, and it was just left a dark, very uncinematic, you know, grease spot. So we needed something shiny and that looked like blood, even though real blood wouldn't look anything like this. But this is just a piece of flexible plastic. And then we got these guys shooting away. God, we shot more blanks on this thing. I can't even... I'd love to have a count. So jumping ahead here, we have the character of Jefe, played by G-Rod, who is the sweetest guy in the world. But man, he's got, when he puts it on, man, he's got one mean face, and he did a great job. All these guys did a great job. But G-Rod now, or rather Jefe, gets shot dead. And this is again, the artistry of rodeo visual effects. Mostly what's happening here is acting. G-Rod is an excellent actor as well as a very accomplished stuntman, and so he's just falling on his face here in a way that makes my knees hurt every time I see it, and just boom. I mean, this poor guy had to do this at least a couple of times. You could not pay me enough to be a stuntman, and nobody would pay me anyway because I'd like cripple myself on the first gag. But here, the thing that really sells it is the acting. But what Rodeo did on top of it is there's a little spurt of blood and like oogly bits that comes out of Hefe's chest. And then if you frame by frame it, there's a little bit of a blood stain you see very briefly, very much in passing on Hefe's T-shirt, his gray T-shirt. That is all added in after the fact. And if you look real closely, what looks like little bits of darker specks down in the dirt on the lower right side of the frame, that is all added in digitally too. That is the blood that came out of this guy's chest. Again, all of it animated, all of it existing only in the virtual world. And it spatters on the ground there. And what's amazing to me is this whole thing is handheld. This shot is handheld, and it's just wobbling around like crazy because Paul Donachie, our amazing camera operator, is shooting this thing, and he's adding some extra stink on it. He's putting some extra English on it. No pun intended, him being English. But when you do that, the guys in the computer bay, you know, when you put down a little spot of blood on the dirt, it's got to stay in one spot. It can't be wiggling around along with the handheld camera. I don't know how any of this stuff works. It's like magic. I suspect it has something to do with computers. So then the tire blows on the, I guess it's the Suburban. And this was very much a real-world physical gag when all these tires blow. Werner and Bob and Leo and Hoosty, these guys. These are kind of interesting, time-honored gags. People have been shooting out tires for 100 years in movies. But it's an interesting thing because what they're doing is there's an explosive charge inside this tire, and even though the bullet is supposed to be going from left to right, obviously if you go frame by frame, you see that the explosion is coming outward from right to left. But it happens so quick, you know, in real time, you don't really notice. But this is an interesting gag. You can't get too close to it because, you know, the camera operator, for instance, could get hurt by this thing blowing. And now, here we have the character of Mercenary number 2, played by Algin Mendez, who's another amazing stuntman, an excellent actor. You see him just emptying out his clip, and boom, he gets shot in the head by the mystery sniper, who's obviously going to turn out to be Mike Ehrmantraut. But this gag, this is another one of those hybrid gags where it's, in this case, it's mostly real-world special effects, which is to say the bullet going through the glass windshield of the Jeep. But then if you look real closely, frame by frame, you see little oogie bits coming out of the back of Algin's head, and they're animated in digitally. So to talk first about the real world part of it, this is such a cool gag. Werner and his guys were explaining this to me. They had an air cannon inside the back seat of the Jeep. It's just out of frame, and it uses compressed nitrogen, like a dump tank of highly compressed nitrogen, and then there's a quick release solenoid valve, and you actuate it electronically. And I got to actually be the guy to press the button. There's like a red thumb switch, and I got to be the guy pressing the button, making this thing shoot. And what it shoots is a glue stick from a glue gun. That's what they're shooting through this thing. And the chemistry of it is really, I guess, or the physics or whatever, is really interesting because it hits the glass. And this is the windshield. This is not like fake sugar glass. This is a real, right out of the Jeep factory windshield. But they shoot this thing with compressed nitrogen so fast, it has so much kinetic energy that the glue stick hits the glass, boom, blows right through it, and the glue stick shreds into like confetti as soon as it hits the glass. So the stick just basically kind of atomizes into little tiny pieces. But like I say, it's a combination of things because there's just a little bit of schmutz coming out of the back of Algin's head. That's digital animation. And the trick with that is these guys can do any volume of blood, so it's up to you as a director to have good taste and to say, which sounds like a weird way to put it when you're talking about all this gory stuff, but sometimes even though you can have them animate in a lot more blood and guts and gore, you're wiser not to, because the more of that stuff you put in, the fakier it looks. A little bit goes a long way, and somehow just having just a trace amount that you barely notice, but you sense it somehow subconsciously. To my way of thinking, that's your best bet.